Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Fantastic Four Issue 9, 2022. Definitely crazy looking cover, and it works with the story that's going on in here. So, as we had last left off, Sue and Alicia were trying to fight this crazy entity that had pretty much wiped people's memories and used them as slaves. So that was a pretty kind of like gnarly kind of place for us to leave off. And we start off talking about like accessibility of stuff and like comic books to blind people like Alicia, which is really kind of interesting. Now, granted, I could see how people are like, what the hell's kind of going on here? But it kind of ties in to how they kind of defeat this entity. And they're like talking about when you want to make comics accessible to blind people, one size doesn't fit all. And we see that there's like comic books of the Fantastic Four in the Marvel Universe kind of explaining their exploits. As we see Reed fighting Doom. And she's talking about some of us care about what the characters look like. Most blind people still have some vision after all. For others, it's irrelevant, especially if what people look like doesn't actually impact the story. So it's kind of cool to get that kind of perspective. And then talking about in July of 1945, there was a newspaper delivery strike, and the mayor went on the radio waves and pretty much started reading the funny comics, so that way the kids wouldn't be impacted by what was going on. Let's see. He did all the voices for the characters, brought it to life. Now, it was to score political points, but it made comics accessible to millions of people for free, and by no less of a person than the mayor of New York City himself, which is interesting. And that's kind of cool to kind of see that kind of work out like that. And then, of course, talking about a rinky-dink outfit in New York City that publishes comics inspired by the FF's adventures, and that those are her favorites. And then Ben reads those comics to her, talking about like Doom having diplomatic immunity and all that kind of stuff. And then talking about how he doesn't really do that these days because he's doing it's clobbering time to them as Sue's shields are cracking under the pressure. Let's see. And of course, this is terrifying her, and she's seeing him as the monster that he always feared she would. He's lost his memories thanks to this Zargor lady. Let's see, giving us pretty much a lowdown of what's kind of going on. Let's see here. She wants us to know she's proud. And it's funny talking about how she hasn't seen anything since she was 15, narrating in a medium that, on my own, I can't even read. You'll forgive me if things feel a little different. Comics are the juxtaposition of words and pictures, and I can't perceive one of those elements without accommodation. But even so, the two parts still dance together. I still fill in the blanks between the panels. And it works because comics in a medium like all media, like all art, where our brains meditate. Yeah. We take what's lying there lifelessly on a page or a screen or a canvas or in some beautiful carved up hunk of marble and use it to tell ourselves a story. And then we see it kind of being written. It's an interesting kind of meta kind of commentary on stuff like this. And it works. And then it's kind of great because then we see kind of done in the old school kind of art style as a tale as Zizor is telling about what was going on as seen way back in Tales to Astonish 23. Tells her story, how her species first came to Earth for conquest. And their leader was a being named Mamba, who, like her, could make anyone forget anything he wanted. Like, showing him, like, do that stuff off. And then, his conquest failed, he left, but Zizor decided to stay, erasing people and making them into her slaves as she built up her kind of underground empire. And talking about how, first of all, this selfish, petty alien has made me see my husband as the thing he's fought for years to never be, the thing I've never seen him as before. She's made him into a monster. The one thing I know he's not, as we shift back to what's going on. But they're getting smashed and squeezed by Ben and Reed at the same time. and then Johnny pretty much comes on, flame-owing up to pretty much get Ben and Reed off of Sue and Alicia's back. But she's able to know that they can't forget that they know Johnny won't burn them, even though they don't have the memories to kind of do that. It's kind of like an instinctual kind of muscle kind of memory kind of thing. And of course, they know everything else about them, their go-to moves, their weaknesses, the things they won't do, which means Sue and Johnny won't win. They can't. Desperate, I try to help. I look at the facts of what's going on, taking what's already set in stone, and I use it to tell myself a different story, which is like, ooh, okay, how's this going to go then? And then talking about that she needs to get this bubble to Johnny, and she pretty much stretches the bubble to pretty much get themselves enough breathing room to kind of like dive at Johnny. And then we pretty much get it from her point of view, where it's just, let's see here, speaking bubbles, and talking about kind of what's going on. And that she can still feel things, so she needs like a malleable kind of force field, kind of like clay. And then she's going to pretty much sculpt it into what she needs, and then Johnny will kind of be utilizing his fire in ways that people wouldn't be used to. Let's see here. And that Sue will move Johnny to where he needs to be. And that Flamo would be on crowd control. And then, of course, she can hear rain bouncing off what Sue's built and everything like that. So they get him to do the flame on, and they've essentially made this, like, octopus kind of thing, which is fucking crazy looking. I love the two-page spread. Is Zargor. Let me see, Zargor. Boop, boop, boop. Zargor, yes. And it's just like, holy shit! So they pretty much got Ben and Reed kind of hooked up, while Flamo's kind of on the crowd control as they had. Sue's trying to get through to his decency, his ethics, and everything like that for Reed, but Zargor's like, I removed those too. Anything that stands in my way, he's forgotten. And then Zargor pretty much goes along her point of view that, like, humans are are made of memories. If you take that away, you take away their identity. Humans are the great explainers, taking whatever's happened to you and deciding it forms a somehow immutable identity. Remove those events, remove that history, and you're a blank slate. Which is an interesting kind of way to kind of like talk about that. That's an interesting thing to kind of explore. Talking about how there's no you, you're all just products of your history, the sum total of your experiences. Coincidences and random chance that you canonize as fact. And then Sue's like, bullshit. And then Zargor's like, the fact that your husband and best friend are trying to kill you right now would seem to argue otherwise, Earthling. However, they're still under your power. See, it's only a blank slate if you only wipe it. And then if you keep utilizing this kind of stuff for them to kind of go for, they're just going to continue doing what you've got, not what they themselves would then choose. And then, of course, Sue's like, Alicia, we need something new. They're adapting to the octopus. And then, of course, Ben and Reed are pretty much going for it. Reed's like counting that it's a blessing that they've forgotten. That memory's a curse. That if you took all that away, you'd have grief, doubt, revenge, hate. All of that would be gone. It's talking about how recollections of the past alter and sometimes destroy your future. It's like, damn. And, of course, Reed looks fucking gnarly there. It's like, god damn. And then Alicia's like, I can still hear the respect and his love for Reed in there. But they're all proceeding from a twisted premise, an evil premise, and that she thinks that they just got to knock that out of them as they go kind of mech style and the next kind of one to go for. And then pushes them that they know how much damage they can take and do enough to knock them into unconsciousness. And then, of course, we see that the arm tears and Johnny gets thrown out enough for Zargor to pretty much take away his memories. And then we get like multiple copies of Johnny and Flamo going around saying that they're going to kill them because of what she said. So they start doing their flame on and everything. And Sue uses a vacuum to kind of like protect them, but it's not enough. It's kind of cooking them. And then we see that Sue gets blasted and she looks horrendous, like that she got burnt and everything like that. And we see that Johnny's like, what the hell? And then Sue's like, I'm never going to stop. Not as long as I know about you and your monstrous powers. And then she's like, you'll forget about them forever. You're about to be a very useful servitor, Doctor. You still resist, but there is might in you too, but it is futile against the full force of my powers. And of course she's protecting herself and Alicia. And then we see that it was all a ruse, that Sue's quite alright. And that she reflects the full force of Zargor's powers back onto herself. Which is a smart move to figure out how to do that. So she used her abilities to make it look like she was horrendously taken out. She was able to look like her hair was burnt off, that simulate 4th degree burns. Zargor thought humans could be made to believe anything, and my friend Sue bet her life that even with everything else gone, there was something innate, something essential and good inside of us that always would be there, and she was right. Take away as much of him as you want, but Johnny Storm will still try to help people, even strangers, enemies. He's not a killer. And that helped, because they had seen that with Ben and Reed. They were able to figure that out with Johnny as well. I wonder if, in that moment, just before she forgot about her own powers forever, Zargor realized that when it comes to humanity, we all start out good. And I kind of like that sentiment. I like how Alicia thinks that way and everything. So it's cool to kind of get the understanding of what she believes and how she believes it. So that's how they won. And everyone else, over the next few days, began to recall them old selves. We see them kind of going back to their lives, to the people that they care about. And the town's got a new tourist attraction, Zargor's colossal and now empty underground palace, which is kind of funny. Things are turning around for the community. Best of all, we got our family back. Our loved ones remembered the people they used to be. What happened was a nightmare, but it's not one they believe in anymore. And there's been benefits too. Sue and Johnny's teamwork has improved, and now that he's out of his rut, Jay's thrilled to find how creative he can be with his powers. Flamo, it seems, is still on, as we see that they created pretty much a combustion engine with Sue's invisibility powers and Johnny's flames. And then she's talking about, I never explained what kind of comic reader I am, that, do I care what the characters look like when Ben's reading the comics to me? Nah, not really. But I do make him tell me if anyone shows up who's big and handsome and rocky and orange. And that's kind of funny seeing them kind of like talk about that and all that. And he's like, well, I guess in the right light, there's maybe a chance he ain't half bad, sweet pea. Right answer, babe. As they share a nice little kiss before we get to the end. So that was a kind of cool little thing. I liked seeing how this issue meditated on the medium of comics and how various different people can enjoy them in various different kind of ways. And this one specifically focusing on Alicia, and even though she's blind, she still gets enjoyment out of them because of Ben reading them to her and how she can facilitate being in the stories and understanding what's kind of going on and showcasing how she's the one that got a good amount of action throughout here, coming up with the plans of dealing with Reed and Ben and getting them out of the picture before Sue's able to use her smarts as well to outsmart Zargor and pretty much reflect all the energy back at her to get her out and to make her forget her powers forever. That's a pretty good way to kind of deal with that, and how the community has to mess around with that. And I do like Alicia's meditation on how people are innately good, and how even in certain circumstances, if you push them into weird kind of spots, Johnny's not going to kill people. Ben and Reed aren't going to kill people. They know weaknesses and they'll go for those pressure points, but there's something in them that'll stop that. And that even though you tell them to kill someone, if it's against who they are, their nature, they won't do it. And I like to think of that as well. I tend to usually agree with that kind of assessment. If you give people the chance and the ability to act good and to do good, they'll usually take that chance. So I like this. This had a lot of interesting kind of stuff to say. And I do understand that like the beginning would be like, what the hell's kind of going on? It's kind of a shocker one from what we've left off with, but it was good to set up how this was structured and how to go through with Alicia's whole kind of understanding of what's kind of going on. And I can't wait to see what other kind of craziness the Fantastic Four will get into next. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.